for something mindless to watch on Monday or Tuesday. And I was just like, I don't know if I can do thinking tonight. I think I'll just do something a bit silly.
Sometimes you need that. You need just something on in the background that is entertaining, but it's not like one of these reality things that just insults your intelligence at the same time.
Yeah.
So kind of the last thing you need, but you can rely on certain films to insult your intelligence as well.
That's why I specifically was like, I feel like I need a Jason Statham film, because I was like, I'll watch it and it'll be entertaining and there'll be fighting and like big explosions and stuff, but I'm not going to have to like focus like really get in order to follow what's going on. And I was like, I knew you two would have a recommendation or two.
Yeah, there's always a few kicking about. There are always a number of action films kicking about in these streaming platforms, especially now. There's been loads of them made in the last couple of years, and they are fairly mindless. You can just have them on and not really think about what's actually happening in them or anything like that. Yeah, that's all good.
So you got plans, or?
Yeah, I'm going to see Mission Impossible tomorrow.
Are you?
Yeah. Leslie wanted to go and see it, and my sister expressed an interest. So we're going to the Moo tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 to see it. So
that'll be good.
It'll be good fun, yeah. Well, especially because you don't know what the weather's going to be like anymore.
Oh, I know. Definitely one of those ones like, should I bring a brolly? That's all back now, all that chat. We saw it at IMAX last night, which I must admit it was worth the paying for that. Because even the trailers, like, because I saw the full Superman trailer and the new Fantastic Four trailer, and I was like, both of them have grabbed my attention now that I'm like properly focused on them in the cinema. And I think they're both shot for IMAX as well. So I think that might be a nice experience to go and see those as well. Although I did see the trailer for, call it Ballerina, but I very interesting thread on Blue Sky this week that said that if you had gone to like the press and PR screenings in London for Ballerina, your review, if it was negative, was embargoed until a certain date. But if it was positive, it could go out straight away. And I was like, so obviously this is not a good film, right? Like they're obviously in control. I thought, imagine how many reviewers for certain big name sites or magazines are going to feel the pressure to put out something positive so that they can have their review sort of ahead of time or get a pull quote or whatever. And I thought, that's not good PR behavior.
Yeah. What you'll probably find is in some of the reviews, they'll wait until they can actually give their proper review, but they'll mention the fact that they weren't allowed to put out a review because it was basically embargoed for being bad. I've never heard of that before. I've heard of them putting embargoes right up until the day of release.
Yes, which also makes you think a film's going to be bad.
Yes, but I've never heard of this sort of two-tier embargo. I mean, who's going to read all the reviews to say, yeah, that's a good one, that's a bad one? That's a hell of a job, because you're talking a number of reviews that they have to wade through. And what if some of them are kind of undecided?
I know. What if some people pull some good points and say, but actually here's some issues that I had. It's kind of on the fence. So yeah, but I'd never seen that before, and I thought, oh, that makes me think that this isn't a good film, or that the company are sort of skeptical about what people might think. So it'll be interesting to see what both Marvel and DC do, obviously with Fantastic Four and Superman. But I have to say, having seen those trailers last night, I was like, no, I'm actually, Superman in particular, I was like, I actually think I would quite enjoy that. It's got, obviously, is it Rachel Brosnahan, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel? So I'm quite intrigued just by that. So I thought, yeah, I'll give them a go. Jurassic Park, the new one, I don't understand that. Like, why are we still doing this?
I know. I kind of felt that way halfway through. I think it was like the first or the second Jurassic World film. I was kind of thinking, we're not really doing anything new here. I've seen we as if I'm involved in it somewhere.
In the production team. Yeah.
It's not, the film is not doing anything new or unexpected, and the sort of the good feeling that you got when you saw the dinosaurs the first time or even the second time is long gone now, because it's it's familiarity, isn't it? And they're scrambling for stories to tell and retell, and as they're going overall ground all the time.
Well, I think, judging by the trailer for this, because I think it's called Rebirth or something, it sounds like, and in the trailer, it looked like sort of odd dinosaurs like combined together. So it's like almost like experiments gone wrong and stuff like that. But I turned around to Chris and I actually tweeted this morning. Mahershala Ali's in that trailer, and I'm like, where's my fucking Blade movie? Stop making other things. Go and make the Blade film. That's all I want.
It's unbelievable. It really is. They're keeping doing it. And this time, Scarlett Johansson's in it, isn't she?
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson and the guy, is it Jonathan Bailey that was in Wicked, and Rupert Friend as well, and obviously Mahershala Ali. And I was like, that's quite a good cast. But again, I'm like, what are any of you doing here? Like, why? And I know that you could argue that obviously, like, I mean, Ballerina is a rehash. Obviously, Fantastic Four and Superman also rehashes. So actually, interestingly, I saw no original trailers last night. Like, they all belong to some sort of world or franchise or whatever, and obviously the film itself is part of a franchise. But I did wonder, like, Scarlett Johansson and the Jonathan Bailey, etc., just seems like an odd career choice, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, who's going to turn down these sort of roles and the sort of money that's attached to them, you know? And the likes of Jonathan Bailey's doing enough stuff that's getting employed. It's like, say, doing Wicked. He was in Bridgerton, wasn't he, as well?
Oh, I've not seen that, but yeah, I think he was.
He was the eldest brother in Bridgerton, so he's getting out there. So doing a blockbuster film is probably the gateway to getting other stuff, I would imagine. The same way that some other actors have taken on these sort of blockbuster roles and then just went back to doing their, you know, their pay for scale rate stuff and all that kind of thing, rather than, you know, sticking with that. But yeah, because Scarlett Johansson, I mean, she's been in like Wes Anderson films and things like that as well, so she's kind of down there, as well as being, you know, like doing all the big stuff as well. So that's quite interesting. Yeah. I having said that, I'll probably go and see the Jurassic World film. Yeah, I will, because I've seen them all.
Yeah, so me too, actually.
I
know, I'm moaning. I'm like, yeah, I've seen every single one that's come out. Yeah.
It won't be my first choice if there's a cinema listing like with stuff that I haven't seen. I won't go for that first, but if it's something I'll say, oh, I've not seen that yet, I'll go and see that. I'm not going to rush out and see it day one, but I kind of would. Go. No, please.
All I was going to say is it's so interesting because I saw the big Thunderbolts poster last night as well, and we were talking about how if you're not immediately grabbed by something, like what you're saying, like you'll go and see it eventually if there's nothing else on, basically, or you'll wait till it comes to streaming. Because when it was like DVDs or videos, and obviously I'm dating myself by referring to videos, but a film came out in the cinema, you were maybe like, and I'm talking a long time ago, obviously, like up to a year, you were waiting for the physical media release. So you did go and see it in the cinema, even if you were kind of on the fence because you wanted to know if you were going to buy it, obviously, when it came out, and you didn't want to wait a year if other people were talking about it. Whereas now, like the Jurassic Park films, or even like Thunderbolts or something, you're like, I'm kind of on the fence. This will be on streaming within a few months, so I'll just wait till then. And I think that's the danger. Like if something's not grabbing you straight away, you are actually willing to wait a few months, get it on the streaming platform that it appears on, because there's not that sense that you're missing out on something, because it's because there's quite a shorter gap between being able to access it at home and having to go and see it in the cinema. And I think that's probably where some of the apathy comes in, because you know, a couple months down the line, you can sit in your jammies and watch it in the house while you're scrolling through your phone if you're not that convinced by it. Whereas back in the day, obviously you did go and see it because you had to wait for such a long time to get the physical copy.
Yeah, that was something that came out of the way films were distributed post sort of pandemic. There was a lot of discussions about it. Obviously, a lot of stuff just went straight to streaming because they couldn't physically get into cinemas, and some film companies just kept that model because they were earning far more with it going to streaming than they were, especially if they owned the streaming service, than if it was in cinemas for an extended period of time and it just wasn't doing the business. It's like, you know, you used to have films that were in cinemas for like 8-12 weeks. And the last couple of weeks of it, there would be hardly anybody there, but they were contracted to show them for that period of time. Now, these cinemas have got a lot more power in that. If a film isn't performing, they'll take off after a week or even less sometimes. I think if they've advertised films on their websites, you know, the timings and all that, they are obliged to show them during that time. It's very unusual. It's very unusual to have films extending, if you like. It just doesn't happen anymore. But on the counter side of that is then the film companies are spending a lot of money advertising films for it only to be in a cinema for 2 weeks. So, their advertising budget hasn't gone down.
Yeah. Because the fight for eyeballs, if you want to call it that, is still there. In fact, it's probably 10 times worse than it's ever been. But actually, you're not having an 8-week run in the cinema. You're right. I mean, it could be like a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 at a push if it's a big film like this, like Mission Impossible. But actually, what is it they always say, like your cost of your film or your advertising budget is like 50% of the actual cost of the film. So
between 50 and 100%, yeah.
Yeah, so you add that on, and obviously, like someone like Tom Cruise, obviously, who's like literally traveling around the globe right now promoting this film in major cities, like he will put bums on seats. So in a way, this is almost like a safe bet. But if it's likes of your Fantastic Four, where people aren't sure of the casting of the main four, or they don't like the fact that Silver Surfer's been gender swapped, or any of these other things that people have complaints with these films, it is like a risk, because Marvel obviously have to spend on promoting the film and doing all the PR tours and junkets and all the rest of it. There is a risk that it could tank really, really heavily if people just, as we've said on the pod loads and loads of times before, all it takes is a few tweets for people to be like, this is shit. And that's your cinema emptied. And where does that budget go?
Exactly, yes. It just disappears. It's just wasted money a lot of the time. So yeah, by limiting screen runs and then putting onto a streaming service, you've still got some of that residual publicity kind of hanging about for use for the streaming one as well. And I think the average time now is about 6 weeks between a film not being available in the cinema and being available on streaming. Sometimes, a lot of the time, it's even less. Like Black Bag, for instance, that was in the cinema for maybe 2 weeks, and after 4 it was on a streaming service to buy. So so it's very unusual for a film not to appear very, very quickly. Some of them, some of the bigger ones, they hold them up a wee bit because there's a certain amount of anticipation for the home sort of premiere. If you like, Wicked, for instance, it had an extended run in the cinema because it was so popular, and then they held off for maybe about a month, and then they had it only to buy from the streaming services. It wasn't actually on the streaming service. I don't even know if it is yet. Don't think it is. So.
I don't think it is. I just noticed Gladiator 2 has come to Prime. I think that's a purchase as well, because I was thinking might watch that on Monday because I haven't seen it. And again, it was one of those ones where I was on the fence about going to see it in the cinema. So I'm like, oh, I'll just watch it at home. But interestingly, I don't know if you had this before your screening on Monday. They played a message from Tom Cruise before the film.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's like, thank you for coming to the cinema and supporting, or the theatre, obviously, as he said, and supporting your sort of like your cinema theatre or whatever. It's so important that we're watching these movies as they're intended to be, i.e. in the cinema. And I thought, well, that's really interesting that they're doing that then, because he's quite famously sort of anti-streaming. That's not to say that his films aren't available on streaming platforms. They obviously are, including the Mission Impossible films. But I thought it's really interesting that he's sort of gone out of his way to have that message shown, because obviously I assume that's his decision, before the film, and sort of making reference to the fact that, getting people together, being in the cinema, watching the films. I just thought that's quite an interesting little note that he's obviously decided to do that.
Yeah, he's using a wee bit of his power to promote something that he wants to continue more than anything else, I think it is. And you can see that in the way that he approached the publicity for this film, because he was like promoting Sinners, things like that as well. So it wasn't just his film, but that was kind of clever as well, because it's like cross promotion. So it's getting Tom Cruise watching a film ahead of his new film coming out, so it's like he gets a mention and all that, and it's cost effective doing that, because a lot of column inches are written over that, and it won't cost them a lot to publicize it, because they'll say to somebody, do you want to come along, get an exclusive with Tom Cruise, buying tickets to go and see another film and having a chat about it, and they'll go, yeah, so yeah, of course they will. So no money will be crossing hands for that particular piece of advertising.
100%. I just watched a thing this morning, actually. Obviously, it's Monaco Grand Prix this weekend, and I've booked my IMAX tickets for the F1 film, because that's how the good Lord intended you to see it. But they had a special screening for all the drivers, because obviously what I'm really intrigued about this film is Brad Pitt shot this film on the race calendar last year. So he was at races. He was lining up for them for the national anthems, like against like, you know, Lando Norris, like Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, and he's standing there like, you know, getting the shot. So I'm really intrigued to see how this works. But I was laughing because I was watching a wee clip this morning about all the drivers coming out of this special kind of preview, and obviously they're saying like, oh, it really captures, you know, the speed and the sound of what it's like to actually be in a race car and blah blah blah. And I thought, I wonder if any of them actually think this, because obviously they're not going to come out and say, oh, it was all right, because it's an F1 movie and it's obviously tied into like all of their, you know, calendar. But they've obviously like pretty much every single driver had been like troped out and had been handed the big F1 mic to say, yeah, I thought it was great, and you know, the sounds and the speed and all that. So I did think, I wonder how much pressure they were, a bit like the ballerina, how much pressure were you under to say, yes, I really enjoyed this film?
Well, F1 is a very interesting branch of motorsports because it's very controlled. They don't like any bad publicity whatsoever, and they don't like people questioning anything that happens in F1. So they tie the drivers down as much as possible. And I've seen news reports and everything where they go against the grain and they actually complain about something. And it's very negative for the driver. It's very negative for the team as well, you know. So it's a bit of a closed shop. So you would imagine that none of them ahead of the film is going to go, it was all right. But, you know, it was a bit unrealistic, you know.
Yeah, Brad Pitt at I mean, I'm laughing. Brad Pitt at 50 odd. Obviously, the story is that he comes back to sort of revive his F1 career. But actually, you have two drivers that are in their early 40s on the grid just now, so it's not that much of a stretch. But I just thought it was quite interesting, and also interesting the fact that it's Brad Pitt, because Tom Cruise is an absolute F1 nut, and he's at all the races, and he's very obviously like pro Lewis Hamilton. He's been very involved with like Mercedes, and I know he'd spoken about, I think he either wanted to give Lewis Hamilton a sort of like small role in Top Gun Maverick, or they talked about making an F1 film at various points. So I'm surprised actually that it's Brad Pitt that's doing this and not someone like Tom Cruise that it seems kind of tailor-made for.
I think Tom's a wee bit busy still. I don't think he's got much space in his calendar to do these things. There's only so much that they can do. And I think he's just so busy with his other projects that it probably just didn't really sort of come to any sort of fruition, because like what you said, Brad Pitt was around for the whole season. So that's true, actually. That's best part of a year. Yeah, so you know, like the likes of Tom Cruise can't afford to spend that amount of time doing something. The whole reason, like, Final Reckoning was delayed because of Top Gun Maverick, because of the post publicity for that. COVID.
Right, okay.
No, well, there was certain hangovers from that, and I think it was sort of the tail end of all the strikes and things, but a lot of it had to do with the fact that Top Gun Maverick was so popular that they had to continue with the press and everything, which pushed this one back again. But yeah, there was all sorts of tales of COVID filming and all that, wasn't there? Or was that the last one? It was all.
What was the one where
in Venice?
Yeah. And then there was like obviously that audio clip where he's shouting at somebody for not wearing a mask, and the internet was very divided as to whether or not he was in the right for trying to protect health and safety or for just throwing a temper tantrum. So that was when those, Twitter was divided as to whether Tom Cruise was right to lose his shit or not.
Yeah, I missed the headlines that said Twitter is divided. What a shocker.
I know. It would be a lovely place if we could all agree on something. But speaking of Top Gun Maverick, do you know who's filming in Glasgow? I think it's next week, actually.
Nope. Tell me.
Glenn Powell.
Ah, okay.
So he's coming back to do... So he was filming in Glasgow. Do you remember he was at the back of the Savoy Centre, which of all the places in Glasgow to be filming? And I think that was The Running Man. So I think he's coming back to shoot more of that film. But like lots of streets in the city centre are closed off because old Glenn is coming through. He's missed the good weather though. That's the only thing. I
did see something on one of these news feeds that said there was chaos due to filming. There was chaos expected due to, and it listed all the streets that were closed, and there's dozens of them. Yeah. So, but it didn't mention what the film was. It just mentioned the fact that there's going to be a lot of disruption over the next couple of weeks, which, very good. But I suppose, they get paid for it. It puts money into the local economy and all that. Well, I'd like to believe that, but I don't know how much I actually believe of it.
I know.
Because we've had quite a few film productions in the west of Scotland, and yet they're still saying that the council's broke, especially Glasgow City,
I know, but there's always money for stuff like this. Although, do you know what's funny? I think maybe, see, if you live in New York, I imagine you probably don't go to films because New York is in a film, because New York's in films all the time. But I do feel like if something's been filmed here, it makes me more inclined to go and watch it in the cinema, because I want to see if I can spot, Glen Powell at the back of the Savoy Centre, basically.
Yeah. Well, I remember a couple of years ago we were in Glasgow, and it was just after they'd finished filming the Indiana Jones sequences, and they still had some of the hoardings up in front of some of the buildings and stuff like that. So it was kind of Americanized. But yeah, that was quite interesting to see. It was quite nice. But apparently that was a bit of chaos as well, because it was like the likes of Hope Street. It was
I know.
Big streets. So yeah, all good fun.
So it'll be funny. It's like that Batman meme where it's like, they chose Glasgow to film the Batman in brackets because they needed somewhere that looked like a shithole.
Yeah, aye. So I know you've been busy this week.
Yes.
With work and full time and getting things ready, and it looks very nice. Obviously, I've seen a lot of the posts on Facebook and LinkedIn and stuff like that. So what have you managed to watch? Mindlessly or otherwise?
I did watch A Working Man, which Jason Statham just doing Jason Statham things. I mean, what I loved about that film was that none of it made sense, and I was actually following it. I was like, who is that? Why have they come here? Like, what gang is this now? But what I really liked was, and I love, because there's a Family Guy clip, and it says where Peter Griffin says that he loves when films say the name of films, and at one point Jason Statham shakes a gang leader's hand, and he's like, look at those spades. You aren't a gangster, you're a working man. And I was like, yeah. They said the title, and Chris kept coming downstairs because every so often I was absolutely howling with laughter at the dialogue. And I was just wondering, when people work on these films, do they know that they're shit, or are they fully committed to, making this? But do you know what? As I say, Statham doing Statham things, so I thoroughly enjoyed it from that perspective. I also watched a documentary on Netflix called The Quilters, which is just a wee half-hour-long documentary, but it's in a maximum security prison in the States, and basically everyone in there is a lifer, obviously, and they make these incredible quilts for foster children in the local council, and they give them to them for their birthdays. And these are guys who've been in gangs, or they're in for murder, or really obviously serious crimes. And they make these incredible, beautiful, dainty quilts, and it was just gorgeous to watch, and how much love and attention they pour into it. They'll maybe find out the person likes music or a particular color, so they make all the quilts to bring out the person or the kid's interest. And I just thought it was really nice, because they talked about how much hope it had given them, and it's just a wee half-hour documentary on Netflix, but it's really sort of life affirming. So I really
sounds good, yeah.
And then I watched Small Things Like These, because I missed that at the cinema because it was gone in a blink of an eye, and that just broke me. So many close-ups of Cillian Murphy and his beautiful eyes just sobbing, and I was like, oh god, this film is going to be the death of me. So good, based on a short story, I think, and it was just absolutely heartbreaking, obviously, about this sort of the Magdalene laundries, and how that went on until the late 90s, because I think this film's set in the sort of early 80s in Ireland and in Wexford, and it was just, he's brilliant in it. He's brilliant in everything, but he's so good in this, and it was just a really a grim watch, but really, really good. And I also watched Renfield, because I saw that had come onto Netflix, and I had so much fun with that. I loved the fact that they started the film with Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult superimposed into the 1931 Dracula, so Bela Lugosi and Dwight Frye. I was like, this is so cool. And again, talk about Jason Statham doing Jason Statham things. This is just Nick Cage doing Nick Cage things. He is clearly having a good time. I think he said he based the whole thing on basically a Christopher Lee impression, and you can really tell that throughout the film. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed that because, again, it just went absolutely batshit at the end. Like, I didn't know how it was going to all sort of tie up, but yeah, I really, really enjoyed that. And Simi messaged me to say that that's like one of his favourites, and that doesn't surprise me in the slightest. It feels like a very Simi coded film. So yeah, no, I watched that, and I also read my couple of Elephant Man books as well that Chris had got me. So one by Ashley Montague and one by Frederick Shreves himself, the actual doctor that treated him. And again, I was a bit emotional. I was reading them on the subway on the way to work, and that way you're like, don't cry. There's other people around. You know, it's like, God, this man's life is absolutely incredible. So yeah, I read a couple of books as well. So, but yeah, not much this week because it has been rather busy back and forth. But I felt really chuffed with my choices that I did watch because I felt like there was a good mix of like nonsense and, you know, worthy films in inverted commas. What about you?
I had a preview day last Monday, obviously, where I saw Final Reckoning, but in addition to that, I saw the live action Lilo and Stitch film, which was actually it was actually okay. It was it was very faithful to the animated version.
Wow.
And with the, you know, very same story beats and everything and like that. So it was obviously a very good story then, which was fine. And it was comedic and it just rolled along quite nicely. And the audience it's intended for will lap this up.
I was going to say, do you think that will do well then?
Oh yeah, I think it will. If it doesn't do well in cinemas, it's definitely going to do well on Disney whenever it comes to that, because it's fun and it doesn't hang about and it does everything it's supposed to do, and you know, hits all the kind of right beats, and the Stitch character is very well done and it's very funny, you know, all that. So yeah, it was okay. Didn't have a problem with that at all. It was okay. Then was the Phoenician Scheme, which is a new Wes Anderson film, the Benicio del Toro film. Now, in the screening that I was in with various other critics, everybody hated it. They just said, they said, this is just nonsense, it's rubbish, what have I seen here? And I was kind of going, I quite liked it. I thought it was okay.
No, I hate when you're the only one.
And I know we say this every single time when a new Wes Anderson film comes out, but it's more Wes Anderson than the last one. It's very, very into his sort of wheelhouse, the way that he shoots it, the dialogue, the delivery of lines, the story itself. Now, the story here is about a man, Benicio del Toro, who he's a fixer, Mr. 5%, and he gets all these deals done. And there's this big deal that he's got for various things in Phoenicia, this fabled land. And it's all going to hell because governments hate him because he's always undercutting them and everything. So some agencies are going out of their way to try and bankrupt him at the same time as trying to assassinate him. So you've got all this going on, and he's having to go around all these various projects. I think there's 5 projects that are sort of in danger of failing, and he's going around various people trying to get additional money and additional backing from them. And it's all like cast of hundreds, like all these people. And this is an example of a film where all these actors are working at scale. They're not doing it for any great amounts of money. They'll probably get back end deals, I would imagine, but they're all doing it for pretty much nothing. And it's like the usual cast of characters, and I thought it was great. It was very funny. It's very arch. Now I kind of like the whole Wes Anderson thing, you know, with the dolly shots and symmetry and all this sort of thing, and people just speaking in a slightly weird way. It's a very mannered way all the time. I thought it was great. So I enjoyed the film. I thought, yep, quite happy with this. It works very nicely.
Wow. I can't believe everyone around you hated it.
Yeah. Oh, no, they were saying this is... Yeah, well, one guy said this is Wes Anderson crawling up his own arse. So it's just... so you're like, well... But he's kind of always done that, so yeah.
I know. I just feel like, do you know what? It's kind of Marmite thing, isn't it? You either like his style or you don't. I do remember a while ago there was a trend on TikTok where you Wes Andersoned your life, and you would like film things on. And there's a lot to be said though for like a distinct style, and obviously like you can choose to like that or not. But I can't believe you just said it's like he's crawled up his own arse.
Yeah, I think people are just going to be a bit fed up with the
fact
fact that they are similar. For a lot of people, the sort of high watermark was the Grand Budapest Hotel, and it's kind of
which is a brilliant film,
there. Yeah, because you've got the likes of Tom Hanks as a Wes Anderson regular now, because he's been in the last two. He was in Asteroid City and he's in this one. Again,
that's right.
Just a wee minute role here. So it is quite strange. And you've got all these other characters, this whole sort of troupe, if you like, very, very familiar faces. And they're only on screen for like 5-10 minutes at a time. It's just very strange, but enjoyed it. Thought it was good fun, And
I imagine as an actor, that's quite an enjoyable experience as well, because it's something that's different. So I imagine as an actor, that's a nice opportunity to have to work with someone of that caliber and that style. And
absolutely. Yeah. So as a wee sort of diversion from that, last night I sat and watched Moonfall from 2-3 years ago. It's about the moon being a superstructure and not an object in space that is actually a planetoid. It's actually hollow, and it's just crazy. And it's a disaster movie. It's just absolutely nuts. It just, if you suspend your disbelief for this one, then yeah, you will enjoy it. If you don't, you're going to be sitting there going, this is absolute rubbish. But I'd say, obviously, this is like the second time I've seen it, and I enjoyed it the first.
So who's in Moonfall? Because I've never heard of that.
It's Patrick Wilson and Halle Berry. It's in it.
Right. Okay. So two proper big names. Then.
Oh yeah.
You're going to say it's like a wee B movie or something.
No. Well, it is obviously a B movie, but it's Roland Emmerich that did the direction of the film. So yeah, it's a big film. Costs hundreds of millions of dollars to make, and I don't think it did particularly well at the box office. But it's just nonsense. It was on Film 4 a couple of weeks ago, and it's one of these ones that has been kicking about for a couple of years, and it did kind of get lost because of the whole pandemic thing and things not good. I don't think it got its cinema release. I think it just went straight to streaming. But
right, okay.
It was all right. I was quite happy with it. On the TV front, I have been finishing off a few things. I finished The Lazarus Project today, which is, I think I mentioned it before, it's a time travel program. It's a science fiction action kind of thing. It ran for 2 seasons, and I'm really annoyed because it finishes on a bit of a cliffhanger. Well, not so much a cliffhanger, it just doesn't finish properly. And it's obviously building up towards like future seasons, and it's really good because, as well as being about time travel, the whole narrative is all over the place as well in terms of like things going back and forward in time and all that. It's like this the basis of it is this sort of natural time portal that resets back to the 1st of July, but the human beings can manage it, but it turns out that somebody is also trying to develop a time machine as well. So there's all this stuff about people going back and forward in time and different sort of time screens and all that. It was really good. And it's kind of told from the position of somebody who gets involved with this sort of organization that manages it and how they progress through it. So yeah, it's pretty decent. It's a pretty good wee TV program. I'm quite disappointed that it just finished. Has it been cancelled or is it just finished? Yes, it was 2022 and 2024, I think. And it was cancelled right after the second season of it. It's on Sky. So yes, it's one of these programs that you want more of, but it was good while it lasted, I suppose. Yeah, that's a shame, especially if you've enjoyed something. There's nothing worse than getting invested. That's why I think with Netflix in particular, it's so tricky, because if you get invested in a series and you're like, oh, it's been cancelled after 3. No, that's a big problem with Netflix, that people aren't watching the first seasons of things because they're expecting it to fail, and they don't want to watch it because they know these shows don't just have a 1-season arc. They're not regarded as an all-encompassing program unless it says it's a limited series, and there's a definite beginning and end to them. And even then, some limited series become seasons, if you like, if they prove to be popular enough. So it's tricky because people aren't investing time in some of these things because there's too much stuff out there for them to watch. So I watched that. I watched Last Man Laughing. Have you seen that on Prime Video? No. It's 10 comedians in a big room, and the whole objective of it is to not laugh and to make the other people in the room laugh. Oh my God, that sounds insane. Over a 6-hour period. and they are given various tasks, and they've all got their wee piece that they do for the others to try and make them laugh, and it's just brilliant. It's just so well done. It's Jimmy Carr that hosts it, and he is in another room, and he starts off the session, and then if somebody smirks or smiles, he comes in, gives them a yellow card, and then they've got the yellow card, red card system, and it's just these people who obviously make people laugh for a living, trying to make comedians laugh, and it's just so good. It's just so funny because you're laughing. Yeah, it's ideal because it's like 30 minutes at a time. You're watching, so it's just 6 episodes, and it's something that Prime has sort of franchised, if you like. There's all different versions of it in different countries with local comedians.
Right.
So there's an Irish one. There's like, I think there's a Nigerian one and a Canadian one and all this. So there's loads of different sort of, and it's exactly the same sort of setup they do. I think some of the games may change in it, but it's the basic premise is it's the last person to laugh wins, and they win the stupid cup. It's not even like a prize for it as well. But yeah, that was excellent. I really liked that. Finished off Pulse, that medical drama on. Apparently, that's the first medical drama that Netflix has made, which sounds bizarre. Yeah, the rest of them that they've shown have been from other production companies.
Oh, purchased from other.
Yeah. They just bought them in, but this is the first one that they've done on their own, and it was pretty good. Enjoyed it. 10 episodes. Didn't kind of hang about at all. It was good. Very good acting in it, and pretty decent story as well, which kind of kept you guessing up until the sort of last minute. And some of the sort of more personal aspects, and there's lots of gory medical scenes in it as well. So hey ho, something for the whole family, really, you know.
Yeah.
And I started watching Blue Bloods as well.
I used to watch that. Yeah,
the Tom Selleck led one. I noticed it come up on, you may be, you've watched this, you may be interested in that. So it came up, and it's on Sky, I think it is. It's actually pretty good. I've watched maybe about 4 or 5 episodes of the first season so far, and it is a procedural with sort of stories running on, like sort of season-long stories running on. There's like sort of undercover work. Was it the Blue Templars? I think it is in the first season that there's an investigation going on. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a very easy watch.
Yeah.
It falls into the same sort of thing as like Law and Order and NYPD Blue and all these sort of police procedurals, if you like. It's good, and I think I'll just continue watching, just sort of dipping in and out of it, because I always like to have at least one of these things on the go, which is quite nice. And the last thing is Shameless, the US version of Shameless with William H. Macy, and again, cast of dozens on this sort of thing. I've watched 2 seasons of that. I never watched the UK one when it came out for whatever reason. I can't really remember why, but the US one's on Netflix. I think the UK one's on Netflix now as well, and just started watching that, and it's really good as well. It's not what I expected, because I thought it was just going to be focused around the character Frank, the sort of patriarch of the family, and to an extent, yes, it is, but it's the whole family. There's all like a sort of a rich vein of stories for all of them and what they get involved in having. It's really good. I'm really enjoying that. Again, 45 minutes, you can just sit and watch one. You don't need to kind of binge them, and it's not like a 3-hour Tom Cruise-a-thon that you're having to go through.
I know. I didn't realize this film was so long until, I didn't feel like it was long, but when we obviously got out of the cinema, I was like, it's 10:30 at night. We got here at like 6:30, obviously, for the film. I know. I didn't realize it was that long.
Having said that, I finished off my cruise marathon as well, just prior to going to see it on the Monday. I watched Dead Reckoning Part 1 on Sunday night, and again, it's about 3 hours long. So I was fully invested. Yeah, it's a long film. It's really just, there's so much to it.
It's funny.
No, it doesn't, but it is a long film because it rolls along. But yes, all good.
And are we acknowledging anywhere that that's called Dead Reckoning Part 1 and this isn't Dead Reckoning Part 2? This is the final reckoning for no reason.
We shall. I have got a wee note to ask a question about that during the main pod. So let's save the gold for later.
Yeah, okay.
Good. That's excellent.
Then we have the wee. We should have the sound of the wee. What do you call it? Like the message self-destructing at the end.
That's a good point. Actually, I will do that. Done that for a few wee ones. I've added wee bits and pieces like the Nosferatu one.
Yeah, there was like
start, where it was the laughing.
The extra sound effects.
Yeah, I just put that because I found wee bits, and the one I'm just about to finish, the monkey. I've got the monkey. There was a wee video of the monkey with the cymbal, with the drum.
No.
Yeah,
that's
and
gonna be
the
so
music
good.
playing, and it's only like about 15 seconds or something. So I've bumped that into the start of it as well. So that's quite good.
That
just
is
these
going to be
wee touches.
Earworm for days.
Yes, yeah. Unfortunately, yes, yeah. So next is
the 1995.
Yeah, if you're up for that, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'll get the two. I'm not doing anything at all next Saturday, so I'm going to just sit down and watch the two of them back to back. I've seen Heat before, but I've not seen Things to Denver When You're Dead, so I'm intrigued about this.
Neither have I. No, I've not seen it, so I just remember at the time thinking, "Oh, I want to watch that," but obviously that was a long time ago. So, and it wasn't particularly easy to find actually as well. It's not one of the.
I know. I kind of felt like it would have been a film that would have been available somewhere because it's like a well-known film. I just know I haven't seen it.
Yeah. I think it's classic. We're talking about films that are 30 years old here, and the likes of Netflix shy away from things.
They really do.
That are over a certain age now. It's difficult to see anything older than like the 1990s, I think, in some of the streaming services. There's obviously ones that are specialising in them, but yeah, it's more difficult to see things.
Although I'll give you a laugh. I walked past a shop called Retro Vibes on Byers Road, and they had this really cool T-shirt like in the window, and it was like all of the Tarantino characters, but at the top of it was like that scene from Inglourious Bastards where Melanie Little's character's like on the cinema and like screen, and she's just laughing, and that was at the top. And I was going to go in and have a wee look, and obviously they didn't have it in my size, but Tarantino is retro. How fucking old am I?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a fossil. Like, they had some Star Wars stuff as well, and the usual, like, Blondie and Bowie t-shirts and stuff like that, but I was like, Tarantino is retro. Wow, that's news to me. I thought you were still making films.
It was, 1991, around about then, that Reservoir Dogs came out, so yeah, it's obviously been a long time.
I am a fossil, okay.
I will check that.
I know obviously I do know he was around in the 90s, but for some reason, I just thought he was I don't know. But it's the fact that they're saying that obviously like he is retro when he's obviously very much still working.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it?
It's a cool wee shop though, full of vinyl. Obviously that's trendy again.
Oh, it's never going away. I'm still buying records, which yeah, it's not an obsession as such, but it's still.
You probably like that shop actually.
I probably would, yeah. It's just I'm not in the West End all that often, but it might be a nice wee trip out, yeah.
Yeah, they've got quite a few wee cool shops like that, and then they've obviously got like your bookshops and stuff as well. So I'm doing my exploring while I'm cutting about at lunchtime. Although it's been absolutely glorious, obviously walking about. Although I was laughing because obviously it's Student City, so there's basically like students sitting outside. You're going for your lunch, knowing that you're going back to your desk, and there's students sitting out having like a nice coffee or an Aperol or a beer or something just in the middle of a Tuesday, and you're like, oh, I really miss being a student.
Yeah, but I mean, it won't be for come next month. It'll be a lot quieter because students will be all away, which you'll have that until like September. So Reservoir Dogs was 1992. So yes,
I feel like that feels like even when you were saying about like obviously like the first Mission Impossible was like 1996. I'm like, in my head that was 5 minutes ago. And same with like the first Dead Reckoning Part 1, 23. I thought that was last year. I'm very confused.
Yeah, it's just I constantly have to check when things happen because I just forget. Because
time means nothing.
Yeah, this is a fallout from the pandemic because we missed a couple of years basically, and things we don't regard it in the same way. We don't like see that whole. We've kind of contracted like about 3 years.
100%, yeah.
Thinking that's about 6 months, So it's very, very strange that the sort of a relationship with timings and all that now. So, but yeah, but it's a sign of aging, I'm afraid to tell you as well, that you can't remember these things.
I'm well aware that, as I say, my pop culture references aren't cool anymore for the kids. Like, I know that I'm old now.
The fact that you're even saying the kids is dating.
I know.
Oh, well, so have a lovely time at the classic cat, the Italian car.
I'm excited. Yeah. And I hope I might see a canary yellow Fiat 500 there. Like, that's what I'm hoping for. So do you know what? I don't even need it to be like roasting. Like, see, as long as it's kind of dry, like that'll be fine. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I do obviously like an Italian car, so some classic cars.
Brilliant.
This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Good luck, Ethan.